trauma bonds. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that does not come from working too hard. It comes from loving in a loop, from returning again and again and again to a person, a PPT, a person, a place, or a thing, or a pattern that we already know will cost us something. The parent whose approval you and I have been chasing, I know that's my story, for decades. The partner whose warmth feels like sunlight and whose silence sends you back into the cold. The friendship, the frenemy, the workplace, the toxic workplace, the faith community that taught you before you could question it, that love and pain, they actually live in the same house. And this week we are talking about relationship detox. And we begin where most of us need to begin. And that is the bonds that were built in pain. And the honest question of why we keep returning to them. I know I do. Hey y'all, I am Madison Samone Chase, also known as Miss Chase. I was raised by an incredible single mom who is my biggest fan and my BFF, my best friend, for real. And I have some other BFFs in my bestie, if you're listening, LaCheryl. I am also a celebrity personal trainer, fitness and wellness expert, and sports and entertainment media host. I was born in Fort Worth, raised in Dallas, and built in Los Angeles. I trained at Juilliard of School of the American Ballet, and I became the world's only 3-time ESPN Miss Fitness champion. Yes. And that led me to appearing in more than 450 fitness DVDs. And the first of those 450 was led by the celebrity trainer and the GOAT, Gunnar Peterson, known for training the Kardashian family. As a certified celebrity trainer myself, some of my most notable clients include Robert Pattinson of Twilight and Batman, the funny and always positive Chris Tucker of Rush Hour, and Amber Riley of Glee. As a sports and entertainment media host, some of my favorite interviews and chats on the red carpet and press junkets and red carpet premieres include chatting with Richard Branson, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emma Stone, Viola Davis, Tyler Perry, Justin Baldoni, Issa Rae, and Tiana Taylor, to name a few. And I share my accomplishments. First, if you're new, you may not know me, and to honor the sacrifices my mom planted so that I could blossom and flourish into the woman I am still becoming. So I want you to pull up a digital chair and grab yourself a cup of hot or cold herbal tea, depending on where you live, and welcome to my cozy home of Cut to the Chase at 8, a 15-minute micro learning moment for macro living. And I am so overjoyed that you are here, because this is where we chat all about our spirit, our minds, our body, and health, because ultimately that is our wealth in microdoses for macro living. So join me twice a day at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, because this is your 15-minute chance for your daily pause, for a cause, for clarity, for wellness, and intentional decision making. And how we start our day and how we end it, it really matters. So if anything you hear today in this episode, if it pricks your heart or lights a spark, please subscribe and share this with someone you care about. And please leave a comment so this becomes a dialogue and not a monologue. And please leave a 5-star rating. So let's take a breath together. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's cut the noise. Let's get clear. And let's get ready, set, grow, and be great. Today's episode is about trauma bonds. We spent last week looking at our screens and talking about apps. And this week we're looking at PPT again, people. And I want to start by creating some safety in this space, because before we go anywhere, talking about trauma bonds is not about villainizing anyone. It is not about building a case against the people in your life, your family, your friends, your relationships, it really is about understanding a pattern that many of us have been living inside. In our romantic relationships, our families, our friendships, our frenemies, our workplaces, our faith communities, our relatives, without ever having a name for what we're experiencing. And sometimes the name alone begins the healing, which brings me to key number 1. A trauma bond is not love. It is a nervous system that has learned to mistake intensity for intimacy. A trauma bond forms in cycles. There is tension, then crisis, then relief. And in the relief, the apology, the warmth, the return to calm. The nervous system registers something that feels unmistakably like love. And the problem is that what it is actually registering is safety after threat. And over time, the brain begins to associate that specific person with both the wound and the relief from the wound. And that is the bond. It's not love in its healthiest form, but a survival attachment to the source of both the pain and the comfort is what it is. And this happens in romantic relationships. It happens with parents whose love was conditional or inconsistent. It happens in friendships and frenemies, especially when you don't see that coming, the betrayal, where the dynamic has always been slightly unstable. It happens in workplaces where a leader uses praise. I know I recently experienced this, and criticism unpredictably. It happens in faith communities where belonging was tied to compliance. The context changes. The pattern is the same. And the intensity of a trauma bond is real. The longing is real. The grief, when you try to leave it, is real. And none of that means it is love in the way you and I deserve to experience love. It means our nervous system learned inside a particular cycle, and a survival attachment are among the most powerful forces in human psychology. So I want you to think of your relationships, past, present, what you want them to be in the future, any context where the connection felt the most intense after a period of tension or hurt, and name that for yourself. You don't have to do anything with it, not just yet, but I want you to simply see it clearly, because this leads me to the next key number 2. You cannot think your way out of a trauma bond. We cannot think our way out of it because it was never formed in our thinking mind. And so this is a piece that gives so many of us that are intelligent and self-aware people permission to stop being frustrated with themselves, with ourselves. You know, the relationship is not good for you. And you've known it for a long time, and you have talked about it, you've journaled about it, you've prayed about it, you've talked to your friends about it, you've analyzed it from every angle, turning it around, flipping it upside down, and we still feel the pull, because that's not weakness, that is neuroscience. And trauma bonds formed in the survival brain, the part of your nervous system that processes threat and safety before your conscious mind ever gets involved. This is a part of you and I that learned early and repeatedly that a particular kind of turbulence was normal, that relief after rupture was what connection felt like, that staying was safer than leaving, even when staying cost you and I something. And that learning happened at a level beneath the language and logic, which is why language and logic alone cannot undo it. And healing a trauma bond requires working at the level where it was formed. The body, the nervous system, the heart that felt that sense of safety that has to be rebuilt from the inside out. And therapy, somatic work, breath work, movement, communication, prayers, meditation, faith practice. These are not soft suggestions. They are the actual medicine. The thinking mind can support that process, but it can't do the work alone. So the next time you feel the pullback toward a bond you know is not healthy, instead of analyzing the pull, I want you to try and place one hand on your chest and talk to yourself and take 3 slow breaths, because you're not solving anything. You're practicing the simplest form of what healing actually requires, and giving yourself a system of a movement of genuine safety that does not depend on the other person. Which brings me to key number 3, the relationship detox with the most important relationship you and I will ever have, the one with yourself. So before you and I can fully detox from a trauma bond, you and I need to go somewhere to return to a relationship with ourselves that is stable enough, warm enough, safe enough, honest enough to be a genuine alternative to the familiar pull of that trauma bond. And this is the work that makes everything else in this week possible. Because self-trust is not built by deciding to trust yourself. It is built by taking small, consistent commitments to yourself and keeping them by listening to the quiet knowing that has been trying to speak underneath all of the chaos and the noise. And that starts by building a daily practice, however small, which is why this is 15 minutes, that says your own spirit, mind, and body matter here. Your peace matters. Your healing matters. And it's worth protecting. And this is not about becoming self-sufficient or closing yourself off from people. It is about having an internal home to come back to when the bond pulls at your center. A center, a self, something solid enough that you do not have to choose between the bond and the void. Because that choice, the bond or nothing, is the illusion that keeps most people stuck. The detox builds the third option. And it starts with 15 minutes, twice a day, of choosing yourself, which is exactly what you're doing right now. So thank you so much. You've taken this one identity. I want you to promise yourself today and keep up that promise before the end of this day. It's not a grand gesture, something simple and something that you can complete. A walk, a journal entry, a meal that you prepare with care. One kept promise to yourself is more powerful than 100 intentions. So start there. So let's bring this all together. Trauma bonds are not a sign that you and I have loved wrong. They are a sign that you and I survived the only way we knew how. And this week we began gently, honestly, with work of learning a new way. And it starts with naming what has been. And that's building safety in your own body and your spirit and your mind and returning to yourself. One small, faithful choice at a time. So the one reflection question: is there a relationship in your life, past or present, or one that you want to have in the future, where the intensity felt like love, but left you more depleted than filled? And what would it mean to finally name that honestly? So you don't have to answer it out loud, and you don't have to act on it today. Just let the questions sit with you. The honest answer is already somewhere inside of you. And so give it a little room. So thank you from the bottom and top of my heart for listening and being here today. It really means a lot. And so this was a tender one and you showed up for it. So that matters. So our 3 keys that we want to review from today. Key number 1, a trauma bond, it's not love. It is a nervous system that learned to mistake intensity for intimacy. So I want you to name the relationships where that pattern lives for you. Key number 2, you cannot think your way out of a trauma bond. The healing happens in the body, the spirit, and the mind. And it's not just in the mind. So I want you to practice giving your nervous system a moment of safety that belongs only to you. And key number 3, the relationships and the relationship detox begins when the relationship you have with yourself. And I want you to make one small promise to yourself today and keep it. And our one question to sit with is there a relationship in your life, past or present, where the intensity felt like love but left you more depleted than filled? And what would it mean to finally name that honestly? So if today's episode offered you clarity, encouragement, or a pause for a cause you didn't know you actually needed, I want you to subscribe and share this podcast with someone you care about, who you think needs to hear it. And please leave a comment so that this becomes a dialogue and not just a monologue. And please leave a 5-star rating because it helps this space to grow. And this is also a gentle invitation before you go. If you feel called or led to grow beyond just listening into a community and accountability and intentional grace, I want you to consider becoming a C3, and that is a Cut to the Chase at 8 Chaser Circle founding member. And you can support at any level, $3, $5, $8, or $10 a month. Every contribution matters and every member belongs. So thank you for joining me here twice a day. Inhale for 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. This is Cut to the Chase at 8 with me, Madison Samone Chase. Thank you for starting and ending your day with intention and grace. And you are ready, and you're set, and we're growing, and let's be great. Blessings to you and yours. Until tomorrow.